Hey, what's up, everybody? I think I probably am pretty loud, but let's put this bad boy in here on the mic side. Okay, we'll do a little of that. These things break easily, and I go through them like butter. Okay, so we've got August 23rd, a Monday, starting off a new week. I'm going to send this to elite members and maybe to premium right away too, or right after that. But not the rest of the folks, which I am putting together. Really, it's more of a an update that goes into what I see happening on the side of all the different markets, like with gold, the miners, the whole enchilada, and perhaps an update on Bitcoin to them. I think I will. I never did call the bottom with them and let them know how much conviction that I had on Bitcoin. For those of you that want to speak about that, one on one, just let me know. Send me a text. I don't want to keep throwing that out there. For those of you that really aren't very interested. But a lot of you are, and I think that if he's, even though I've been kind of busy, hard to get a hold of, all that stuff, if you want to talk about crypto, or really if it's anything in your portfolio, we can do that in terms of like over the course of the next week or two. If we haven't done like a review, hit me up, text, WhatsApp, and not email. That's the thing, is a lot of emails, I hate to say it because that's how we all communicate, they just get past me, because I think part of what I've been experiencing throughout all this time is like, the amount of information that I've been absorbing, coupled with a lot of the stress around me, for a bit. It's really been all of 2021, but this kind of started electively, late last summer, when I just started going down the rabbit hole of blockchain and crypto, and I just blew off a lot of my replies because I just realized, I'm like, this is it. One time, one shot. I was enamored, and one day turns into the next, and then I check some stuff, and then the thing is with all that information soaking, and I still have that going on, but I have to do it in pieces, and there is so much. I mean, coupled with, I'm staying on top of all markets, and when you get into gold, silver, and those things, I am renewing my essentially my attention and my research there, assuming that we get what I think is going to happen, which is we've got a nice update today, which I thought was very important. And then if we have a nice close above any of the resistance levels on the weekly, on the monthly, or the quarterly, that I'm looking for on gold, particularly gold. With the miners, I don't get as worried about them if the price of gold is high and it's looking fine and it hasn't broken down. It looked like, and I think that the whole sector on the precious metals is very oversold, and it really, normally I would say that this was a stop out. We broke out of that range that I was pointing out. I made a call that it was going to break up. It broke down, but there was a very concerted effort, particularly on that one Sunday night, where they just slammed this thing down on no volume. They did that right before, on the late days of that week. And I think it was an effort, in the doldrum days of summer. This is where you will get those attempts by shorts, and they wanted to break the chart. But the problem for them is there's another element that I tend to look at, that I take into consideration, especially for longer term trend changes, because I have to look at all of it. If I look at a daily chart and something has occurred, breakout, breakdown, it's important, and I do take that into factor. But I bank a lot more on the weekly chart, um, and the monthly chart. The weekly is really good for me in terms of, uh, you know, that's probably my most highly weighted chart that I look at when I'm finding out where we're going and what's going on. The monthly is hugely important for the long term, and if those two charts override what I'm seeing on a daily, and the price of gold hasn't really followed on a breakdown or a breakout, uh, I will bet, I bet on those longer term trends because they're harder to move and harder to turn. But in any event, There is a service that I've gotten very familiar with over the years, and it's about momentum. Momentum structural analysis. This is and look, I've done everything through my career with point and figure, with looking at different tools from Bollinger Bands to Gann cycles. I mean, I've done all this stuff to different degrees, and even when you get into the contractive cycles and that type of thing, I don't believe that those helped me. In fact, there were long cycles in big markets that I missed looking at people putting the box in the different winter periods or what cycle we were in and just being wrong about the timing. The Gann work is pretty interesting, but I don't have like time to look at the stars and look at all that stuff all the time. And I don't care to because I'm also not worried about it. And I never really have been, as you know, I'm not a day trader. And not a lot of that stuff is designed for commodities and futures. And it does work for the markets. And I would look at that as an overlay if I needed it. I felt like I needed it. I don't feel like I need it as a longer term investor and swing trader. That's what I define myself as. Those are where my sweet spots are. And that's where I've made the very bulk of my money. Options add to that a little bit, but I do that very unconventionally when I talk to other people who are trading options, or if you're more advanced and you're writing covered calls and doing it for income. I find that has been a very successful model for a lot of pros. I know some brokers, that's like their whole business. And that there's other things, straddles and strangles and things that are a little bit more sophisticated that I never went down down the path of. I mean, I put some of those orders in the past, but that was back when I was a rookie and early days, and I made the same mistake over and over. I realized over time, and that was I never bought enough duration. Now, when you see me put those option buys out, usually it's calls. I do a little bit on the put side, but not a lot. I'm more of a long investor, but if I need a hedge, I will do the same on the put side. It's very rare, but I only also will tend to do option trades on the bigger names and or ETFs and or indexes. And some of that is in our areas of choice. With silver, with gold, with the miners. I mean, things like MUX or IAG for the leverage. I do that because I buy a lot of duration. And I've found that in my career, I always ran out of time. That was the thing. You want the quick hit and you don't have to pay the big premium. And then all of a sudden, it's 2 months later and it's expiring and it's worth a penny. Like, I had that happen to me so many times. I took a break for 10 years from options. When I started to get back into it, probably about 4 years ago or something, I'm happy to say that, like, have I lost any money on options? I may have, but I may have. There's been a couple that expired. I know there was one on Mux that I had. It was like a May expiry, and it was again, it was pretty long. I mean, but it was like a year or less. And what I try to do now, like the ones that I'm loading up on regularly with the IAG, still, and I'm down like 50% on a good option position, but I'm not worried. I am, getting a little bit concerned about the January 2022s. When I started buying those, it was like 15 months away. All of a sudden, boom, you know how things go. But I'm not too worried about that. And I'm not really focused on adding those, but I'm down a lot on the January 2023s. And I'm very confident that that is going to be just fine. And even if I lose it all and it expires in January this year, I'll make up multiples that, in that play if I'm right, and have the extra year. I bring that up. I don't know why, except for the various ways I'm looking and tend to portray and relay the ways to make money. I think that there's going to be some occasional option opportunities, but I will tell you this, you know, that is stuff that I sprinkle on top of my big positions in portfolio. And only some that I feel really good about that give me extra time with a decline and it's still intact and there's like a year, 18 months left on on the clock. And, I'm already down by 30, 40%, which I think there's a couple more that I've started putting on. I don't know if it's Mux is one of them, 2023, the $1. I've been chipping away at that. There's another one I think is the January 2022 that I've got. And, those are the ones that they were still long duration. But anyway, I'm giving you one tip that I learned from my own suffering. And that was, if you're going to mess with options, buy time. Pay the premium and buy time. Other than that, and I also like to buy under the money, because you'll find that when you look at the premiums, if something is a strike price of 25 bucks, okay, and the stock is at 22, and you're paying you're paying a premium for the time, and you have to go up $3 to get the penny for penny, dollar for dollar move. uh, if you end up looking at something that is basically, well, actually, I'm wrong about that. If the thing is at 22, let's use it that way, and the stock is at 25, and you've got $3 in the money, usually you would look at, okay, I'm going to go up on that, but I would tend to look at the 23s, the 22s, the 24s, and you'll find that the difference between the ones that are out of the money and in the money, a lot of times they have like a 50%, like one will be 50, 60 cents that's already in the money and going to go up penny for penny, and the ones that are out of the money are going to be higher. So it's interesting. Anyway, go moving on. I'm bullish on gold, silver, and the miners. Palantir. Now, this is where, guys, I think that for those of you that are starting to or have had some crossover, between like metals, precious metals, sound money, and technology. I have for a long time, and once in a while it comes in very handy, which is like right now. Palantir Technologies, okay? Do you know about this company? I think they're public now, but they were private forever. We were trying to get access to that thing pre-IPO for a long time, because it's like the most valuable data compilation AI company in terms of software in the world. They provide data analytics to the highest level of governments and corporations, started by Peter Thiel. This guy is everywhere. You have to follow people like Peter. I think I have to follow people like Peter to find out, where the opportunities are when I see him involved in something, not necessarily that late stage, but I came across Palantir a long time ago, and I didn't know anything about it. It didn't have like a household name, but when I started to look at what it was, and then the array of investors that are in the deal, that's how I end up making some of my decisions, particularly on the earlier stage stuff, the crypto, the tokens, the corporations that end up having private rounds, because I have only learned that I make good money and a lot of money when I bet alongside people that are smarter than I am. That's just what I try to do and what I do. If I'm the smartest guy in the deal, I'm probably the dumbest guy in the deal too, so not always, but you get the point. So Palantir bought $50 million worth of gold, physical gold, to put on their balance sheet. This is big to me, very big news, because you have the Michael Saylors of the world, MicroStrategy. He's an innovator, and he's going to be a legend. And, for taking that move early and putting Bitcoin on his balance sheet, and then raising debt and buying Bitcoin and putting it on his balance sheet. And MicroStrategy, MSTR, they've been a public company for, I think, since the 80s, definitely since the 90s. He's been the CEO. It's got to be for 25 years. And they've got another part of their business that is very robust. They're NASDAQ listed. And he just had the problem that a lot of companies are realizing. You can't have a zero interest rate environment with corporations that have tens, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of cash on the books be printing the amount of money they are, which is debasing the fiat, and you're losing ground every year. Your shareholders, if they have a voice and a brain, if you're bored, isn't just retarded and thinks within a myopic standpoint, you're not going to buy all bonds with that. You're not going to buy treasuries. You have to find, other ways to either store value and or generate yield. And again, I think we are at a point where the Bitcoin is becoming, and what we're going to see, folks, I mean, I'm just telling you the future. It's just going to be a fact. The companies like the bigger and bigger companies. So Tesla and SpaceX have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Okay, we didn't hear like a news announcement about that, and we haven't heard that about companies like Amazon or Disney or whatever. But they're coming, and it's going to probably come out in the sense of they're not going to say anything until they feel like they've got a good position, and it'll come out in the filings, and somebody will reveal it, and it's going to happen for a very, very significant amount of companies every quarter going forward. Not all the largest caps, but you're going to see Fortune 500 companies. For me, it's more about the micro strategies of the world. Plop on 50 million, do 30 million. You've got 200 million in cash, 300 million in cash. Grab 30 million of Bitcoin. You're going to see that happen at an accelerated pace. And where's the supply going to come from? You also are competing with institutional investors. You're competing with very, very, very high net worth and savvy fund managers like Paul Tudor Jones, Stan Druckenmiller, all these guys, Ray Dalio. You're coming in. Those guys are not done buying. They just started. They started last August. It was part of the reason when I found out, particularly those two individuals started a position. Initially 1% and 2%, if I recall, that was disclosed of their fund, and then verified it by them mentioning it and saying something and giving some thoughts on it. Raoul Paul is the one we can thank for that. Those were his old book of clients at Goldman. He's been a very leading voice in this stuff, and people hear him, they trust him, they listen to him, and he's put his money where his mouth is, and he's been right. But for those of you that don't know those names, a lot of Canadians, some Europeans, don't put enough stock into, I think, keeping an eye out. A lot of them are American based, but some are European. But the best of the best, the legends, Paul Tudor Jones, I don't think he's lost money. He lost money 1 year out of like 30. He always makes money. Druckenmiller's one of the biggest legends in money management in history. And these guys aren't late. That's why I had things like this. I was like, I'm on to it. It's on. These guys are coming in. It's phase two, and they are not going to stop buying. It's just like all of us. We do a little bit, and we get more comfortable. We get a pullback. We're buying more. And those entities are lined up around the block. So Bitcoin, people that believe gold is going higher, it's very common to say, well, then Bitcoin as well, it'll go up more because of the risk reward profile and all that. Bitcoin or gold, though, is not going anywhere as the true store of value. I'm going to be talking about this on Real Vision next time and some of my videos, and I'm going to be more so getting specific on what I'm seeing of the dynamic of Bitcoin and gold. And really, the division that we see comes from people that either don't know anything about Bitcoin and crypto or don't know anything about gold. That includes Michael Saylor and some of the big players in crypto. They are visionaries, but they don't know shit about gold. And so I'm very, very bullish on gold as my safest investment. And I believe that a lot of big money and rich and new money that make their fortunes on crypto. I already did it in May when I was taking off these 100, 200, 300 baggers on pieces of positions. I was funneling that either into cash with yield, getting that on my US dollar, or I actually loaded up a lot of gold. I did it through a token, Pax Gold, because it was already in crypto, and that's just like an ETF. I also have bought more physical, even as recently as Saturday, that I can have shipped to me. But those were from crypto profits. Okay, and before that, I got into the crypto before it exploded on mining stock profits or losses. That's where I chipped away and had most of my seed capital, along the way. And so this is going to shift back and forth. I will give you that update along with the other folks. I just want to let you know I have other picks coming. I'm working on a couple that are very exciting. We've probably got a week or two, I think, of somewhat carte blanche before the volume starts really coming back in. But I'm telling you something, the odds are very high that the things that we buy now in the quiet are going to be up significantly on the junior side, like in September. And really, this time, I'm very, I'm, I wouldn't say I'm extremely confident, but I'm very hopeful and I'm expecting that on this next move in gold and silver, we're going through the old highs. We're going through 2000 and we accelerate. We go through that 2200 and gold is on its way to 3000. What is going to happen at that point with the mining stocks that have been really tough, for us for years, essentially? Luckily, we have had enough big winners and winners to keep it interesting and make it profitable. But this is a tough market, especially when people don't buy that many or they buy it at the wrong time. We're overdue. And what will do it is that 2K plus and a breaking into high is going to bring in a flood of money. We talked about that before, but it was kind of delayed. Now it's coming, and I think it's coming. So if gold melts down, gold's not going to melt down. Gold's almost at 1,800 bucks. Even on the weakness here, that is a very profitable level for miners with cash flow. And I'm excited about where those things are going. I have a few new picks coming out. I would strongly suggest any of you that are paying attention and have some level of resolve to do this. Phenom Resources is ridiculously cheap at 50 cents, 55 cents. Uh, so I let that stuff go. And then, I bought like a little one day and I'm just like, let's see, if anybody even steps up. There were people doing it after not, bringing anything up. There was no news and it kind of stuck in there in the 60s or whatnot. And then it just like people give up and they stop. That's the time when those of you that want to be on high alert with any of those plays that are special to us, and that just based on first of all, there's so much stuff coming out on Phenom Resources in the sense of expectations. They're going to be go and drilling the AVP project in the middle of what they're doing at Carlin. These are holes that are so deep, they take 2 weeks to drill one hole. So those results are going to be start to come out. I'm not really expecting they're going to hit absolute pay dirt on these first like 4, 6, 8 holes. I think, the odds are good. They're going to clip a good, intersection or two, but this is a massive, massive deal. So I wouldn't even mind if there's not that much that comes back. There's going to be at least, just like last time, some valuable information in terms of vectoring. And if they're onto what looks like the fingerprints and the recipe for what Dave Matheson is essentially calling, to me, you could use the word like elephant on steroids that we potentially have underneath our vanadium asset. With, by the way, vanadium's sticking in there 960. Vanadium is up 77% in a year. And we've got over $3 billion of V2O5 in that deposit. The attention is going to come back to vanadium and the few companies that are out there this fall, especially when it goes over 10. And that's just gravy. That's what I'm basically saying is our backstop, so that we're not going to lose money in this thing. If they go for the big gusto in gold on a few properties and we whiff on it all, we're not going to really, I don't think, lose any money because of the vanadium asset. We have a copper asset. They're doing more deals. Guys, I'm behind this fully. I may stay silent for a while. I may go quiet here and there, but trust me when I tell you, this is a good situation where you don't have to ask me. Phenom Resources is never going broke. They never have that problem with financing ever again, unless somebody steals money or, that's not going to happen with these guys or with Paul. It's a very good group of people. We just got Rob McEwen in it. We have huge players that are on the investor list that nobody knows about that, it may just be my role to get them pumped to get more involved. And I think that that's what's going to happen in the coming weeks. And I think Rob is, he's there to be an asset for us. He's he's not been silent. He's actually made an action without me talking to him that is actually going to help the company. So, hey, we are in a great position with that deal. Elites, premium, you guys should be absorbing all of this. We already own probably over half of the company. I am going to ensure that this thing is, when the time is right this fall and this winter, trust me, there's going to be a lot more than us and more, drivers of this thing than the gold investment letter in our group. But we want to own it all first. You don't want to chase it later. That's what people do everywhere, including in this newsletter. Why? What are you doing? Like, now's the time. Buying up to a certain price, stop there. I think this can be bought all day up to 75 cents. Build a long term position. Any pullbacks like this one, you put in more than normal than you do on a chip away when money comes free. And McEwen, he closed the 40 million today, guys. I mean, come on. You got a CEO that just plopped down 40 million bucks for McEwen Copper to move this thing forward and really generate value in this corporation. And he said, I don't give a shit if anybody else comes in for the rest of the other 40. And he closed it. And they have $40 million to develop Los Azules, which is one of the most monstrous copper deposits on planet Earth. And the things that they're doing to generate that value, I'm clear that's going to generate value. And we have a 4 handle on copper. Plus, we have what's going on with gold. McEwen is an accumulation. And if you want to keep hearing new ideas, I will have some of those for you. But don't forget, the way that I end up doing the best on my performance is I always look back. First, I examine the holdings I have. I say, cooled off, hold. Is this still a screaming buy and like it's fallen out of bed for no reason or whatever? Those are the ones that I top off first. Now, if you already have enough of those, which obviously McEwen being an NYSE, Toronto Stock Exchange company, it's liquid all day. If you're an institution or a family office, you can own millions of shares of that deal. It's not a problem. Now with Phenom Resources, look, probably you don't want to go 2, 3, 4, 5 million shares, but that's where I am. I mean, I'm going to have the biggest problem getting out of mine ever. I'm not worried about it. I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities to exit, maybe a spin out, buyout, all kinds of stuff, guys. And then the new ones that are coming, you're going to like. And last but not least, it's not done yet, but for elites and maybe for premium accredited investors that have done a lot of the placements with us in the past, we'll see what happens, but I'm pretty sure we are going to. I'm isolating along with another entity, a block of Kraken, the 4th largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world, that is U.S. based. They're the 2nd biggest in the U.S. behind Coinbase, and the price is very good. And the terms being preferred stock, Series A preferred stock instead of buying common stock. I've done a lot of these pre-IPO deals and Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I was there early on in these days. And when I learned about the Kraken situation, I'm all over it. But it turned into a scenario where the gentleman who sourced it, they want to do at least a $5 million minimum. He's probably good for X amount. I said, look, I'm sure my guys will be all over this thing if I can offer it out. Now, it's one of those situations where we'll see. We'll see what we get. I might have a lot. I might be able to get a lot because we're buying this from selling shareholders that are up 200x, that want to loosen up a little bit of stock. No employees are on this. We also, if any of you know about this area, we're going to be on the cap table. We're getting finance. We're getting that financials, which never happens. I put money in and got a lot of people into Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We didn't even know what the numbers were because they won't give it to you. Not on the cap table, and always common stock. So this is really interesting. And, for those of you that, want to stay in your comfort zone and do equity, but have a huge, like best of breed exposure, to what will be a very, very large public company next year and a liquidity event that should, this isn't buying it at the stage where, you're going to make 100 times your money, but there's a ton of risk taken out. And I think we're getting it at 13 billion on the valuation, 57 per share, which is very good. I mean, you look at where they were, I mean, this is like, I forgot the actual 13 billion. They were out there about to raise 20 billion valuation on the company back in March, and then the market fell apart. So this is a good one. If you are one of my people that, you're waiting for deal flow or you want a unique deal flow, I'm going to slide this one in there because, it's not mining, but that's the thing, guys. Like we get lucky. All this type of stuff comes up through whether it's our network or my old contacts or whatever. And, I'm just staying flexible with this stuff because who knows, like I know this business in a lot of different levels and facets on the venture side and on the public side and all that stuff. But I'll give you more information. I'll let you know how aggressive I'm getting in it. It'll be in a single purpose vehicle that will have fees on it. It'll be like, a placement fee to get in it. I don't know what that'll be. Usually they're around 5%, and then they take a back end percentage, just like a fund, because they manage all the administration and all that stuff, and they source the stock, and like, they got to group everybody together to do 5 to 10 million, or the seller won't even, talk to you. So I'll keep you posted, but I'm really bullish on our sector, gold, silver, and the miners. I think we're going to potentially have a very different environment in our favor in like 60 days in this market. And you want to be chipping away when everybody's asleep, when it's the last week, 2 weeks before people are trying to avoid reality in the world and spend time with their families and Labor Day. And it's a crazy time, but there's going to be so much money to be made, and there already is. And then when we have the crypto side of stuff, the Bitcoin part of it is all very important for us as gold investors. But, like the rest of it, I'll selectively talk about that. The rest I'll save for the crypto newsletters. And I will just say that I will still be looking for Bitcoin by, I think I had mentioned my target initially earlier in the year for the end of Q1 next year. I think it was around there, definitely through January. I didn't do anything for the year end, and I think I said 150,000, and I'm sticking to it. And I think it probably goes higher. So anyway, Bitcoin and crypto and Ethereum are going so much higher. Nobody knows how big this thing is. And it's going to continue to shock people and say, oh my God, I woulda, coulda, shoulda. Oh my God, it's too late. I missed it. Oh my God, look at this thing. People are going to stab themselves in the eyeballs by the time this thing is all done. They're probably doing it already when they heard about it at $5 or $20 or $100. But a lot of people are the reason it's going higher. And I feel like I know it is. And we're nowhere near the end, even of this cycle, this cyclical part of it. People don't know what's going on, guys. Like, people don't understand it. You ask around, nobody owns it. That's perfect. Or they sold it, they got out, that's perfect. When the masses are in that position and that mindset, I'm super bullish. So, anyway, looking forward to some really good ideas to share with you guys. And this went 33 minutes, but hopefully some of it was helpful. And we're going to do a Q&A session. I'm going to do separate elite and premium. I have to probably book them on I'll be able to get the date and time set probably tomorrow or Thursday, but it likely will be stacked. Like Monday, we'll have two of them, and then I'm doing crypto Tuesday because I'm going to be traveling this next couple of days. So anyway, have a good night.